Wow, man. So we really have a very hilarious video for you guys to be seeing here that we're going to be looking at. This is hilarious because, and congratulations to Kyle Kulinski, you know what I'm saying? Round of applause because he is the first, he's truly revolutionized humans and the way they are because he's the first ever human being to ever successfully be able to fillet himself. So big thank you to Kyle Kulinski for really paving the way for the next generation, really changing human history and really bringing a lot of change. So he made this hilarious video titled "Happy Anniversary to the Time I Crushed Fox News Effortlessly," which if this didn't really lead into, I mean, nah, not really. This is kind of like a cringy title, period, and I know a lot about cringy titles because all of my titles are very cringy, right? So he has been looking for an excuse to make a video to fillet himself because there's something wrong with this man's brain for sure, where he thinks that he is the best lefty debater despite him only having done really one long form debate, a long form, full debate, which was against Razorfish, of course. And, that was obviously mauling. So he legitimately believes he's better than Destiny, Sam Cedar, and David Pakman. But he believes, basically, that he's not Destiny's a number two, and then he thinks that everyone else is kind of like afterwards. So he thinks, in other words, he's like leaps and bounds ahead of people like Cedar and Pakman, which is pretty crazy if you do ask me. So we're going to look at this. It's pretty hilarious. So the clip that he plays, here of Fox News is hilariously self-defeating because it's like, dude, it's less than 2 minutes long. So the best piece of clip of him, doing well in the debate is less than 2 minutes. I find that to be pretty self-defeating if you do ask me. But let's check this out. We'll jump in from time to time.
Needless to say, I haven't been back on since. To be fair to them, there was a separate show that invited me on. So when I went on, I met like one of the
Here, actually,
other.
force forward.
So that producer, particular show. I wonder why that is. So yeah, that was fun, and honestly, that was easy. That was easy. As Ken Klippenstein said, they had no idea what to do with me.
So the reason why he said something that Ken Klippenstein said was because he responded to a tweet of Kyle Kulinski filleting himself on Twitter, which is hilarious. He posted the video to remind everybody, and that was a thread that was linking to a poll I did where he was down like 6 percentage points to Sam Cedar in the poll. And so he literally had to raid the poll to win, but I'm going to let him continue.
They're used to having on lefties and just like, okay, now sit there and we're going to railroad you. And you're supposed to go like, yeah, I would like to have my stapler back and maybe I would like to make it so that I agree with you on most of what you're saying, but I would like to maybe slightly disagree and tell you that I don't think it's
went on a lot longer than I thought it would.
Say mean things to people, but I'm going to now lay down and let you destroy me. I don't do that, which is obvious that I don't do that. So Progressive Voice brought up, he's been doing this a lot recently, having the conversation, having the discussion. Who's the best left-wing debater? And he's done polls.
All right, so first let's take a moment here to just think about and comprehend the fact that he's actually making a video about this. Now, as you guys know, the vast 99+% of his show is just strictly sticking to the news. He does his news stories and that's it. He doesn't really, you don't really hear him talking about, David Pakman or Jimmy Dore or Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report on his actual show. Now, on the Secular Talking Smacks or on Twitter, or if some rare instances, he'll do specific segments about those kinds of people, like Jimmy Dore when the CNN hit piece was done on him. He did a video on that, but that also had a kind of higher meaning. But then obviously he's going to talk about Jimmy Dore. But vast majority of times doesn't happen. So the fact that he's doing this period shows just how dead set he is on this issue. That really, really does go to show you that. So I think about that and just, really digest that and, think about that.
With myself, Cenk Uygur, Sam Cedar, David Pakman. He's done separate polls where it's been myself. He's included Destiny and some others, if I'm not mistaken.
Here it comes.
And I got nothing but love for all those guys.
Here it comes.
In fact, I know most of them personally, and they're good dudes. And I think there's a case to be made that they all know what they're doing. They're all pretty solid at this whole debate thing. But I'm here to say, we really having this conversation, son.
See, I actually agree with that line, but I would use it in the inverse. I can't believe we're having this conversation either, because you haven't done enough debates to be in the ring with Sam Cedar or David Pakman or Destiny. So I actually agree with that statement. I just agree with it in the opposite way.
Now, Progressive Voice, his whole thing is like, bro, you don't meet the minimum threshold to even be considered the best debater.
True.
Quality and quantity are separate concepts.
So here's
That's not the same thing.
And here's the problem with that, okay, is that he sets up my argument, fairly by saying that my response is that you need to meet a minimum threshold of debates, long-form debates, to be able to qualify to be in the same conversation, because it's unfair to compare someone like Destiny, who does hour-long, done tons of these debates with people, or David Pakman, who's done a bunch of debates, or Sam Cedar, who's done a bunch of debates, to Kyle Kulinski, who hasn't really done many debates. You know what I mean? So that's right. You do have to meet a minimum threshold. And, he then sets it up as a straw man right afterwards by saying, quality versus quantity. It has nothing to do with quality versus quantity. It has nothing to do with that. I know that they're two separate concepts, and he knows this too. They're obviously two separate concepts, and I'm not proposing that anybody is better than Kyle Kulinski simply off of the fact that they've done more debates. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to meet a minimum threshold to where you have really shown us what your chops are in debating, because you can't, just do a few debates and then be the number one guy. And it's really weird and frankly quite stupid to do a few debates and then proclaim yourself as like the king of lefty debating. He said he's the Michael Jordan of debating. He thinks he's the greatest debater. He's barely even done any debates in the first place. So all of this is just really honestly pretty ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I know that they're two separate concepts, and obviously they're two separate concepts. And you said it earlier. I told you need to meet a minimum threshold. All I'm saying is do more debates, and then you can make the argument. But right now, you haven't done enough debates, dude. You've barely done any debates. Barely any of them whatsoever. And you already are proclaiming yourself. Dude, if you went back in time like a year and a half, right? Go back like a year and a half or 2 years or whatever. This guy he didn't want to do any debates because he called it the WW sophistry sphere, which is all true. And then like 2 years later, it's like, oh man, like I'm the greatest debater of all time. It's like, what? What are you doing, man? Like you can't just claim something like that. You have to show us your debating skills by debating. Well, now all he has to do in my book is 5, 10 or 20 minute plus, 10 on the more lenient side, but more like 20 plus minute long form debates. That's really it. All you gotta do is hit that 5 threshold. I mean, he's debated Jesse Lee Peterson, but Jesse Lee Peterson debates don't count. That's just a comedy show. Those don't count for anybody, obviously. No one preps for that. No one cares about that. It's Jesse Lee Peterson. It's a comedy show. Group debates don't count because the amount of debating that you're doing is not it's not measurable, and it's not the same as a 1v1 debate. So like I had watched the how the F do we get along segment or group debate, and it would be unfair to chalk that up as a debate as part of the meeting the minimum threshold. So and the Fox News debates, those ones are super short. They're barely anything, dude. Are we really going to count those as debates in comparison to and having them meet a threshold? No, man, you can't. So all it is like, 10 on the more lenient side, but really 20 plus minute, 5 20 plus minute long form debates and you've hit the. I don't understand what's so crazy about this, dude. All I'm saying is do more debates. That's it. I'm not saying anything crazy, and he's just. I don't know what's going on.
Like, you can be the greatest, but not do it often.
No. What? Like who? Michael Jordan. The dude play. I don't even remember how many seasons he played, but he played a bunch of seasons. You know, he had 6 championships. So that means he won 6 years. He had 2 three-peats in a row. I think he won it. Didn't he win an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year in the same year? Like, no, to be the GOAT, you have to have, you do have to have played a lot. Now, you know, there's no, like, what examples would you have of something like a greatest of all time in any area of somebody who didn't do much? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, there are a lot I think the mainstream answer for greatest of all time and rap artist would be Tupac, and he had a shit ton of music. And this, you know, I would say it's Nas, and I think it is Nas. He has 12 albums. Now 13, actually, because he put out a new one not too long ago. Like, yeah, you do have to do it a lot to be considered the greatest of all time. What are you talking about? Of course you do. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at just any of the GOATs that you can think of. Any of them.
Like, Tiger Woods plays in fucking fewer tournaments per year than every other top golfer. And it's been like that for most of his career, actually. Does that mean, like, bro, he hasn't met the minimum threshold to be considered? So, I mean, come on, bro. No, that's just a bad point.
So I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to use a golf example because no one knows about golf. No one watches golf. So he's playing on the idea that no one will understand anything he's saying because no one watches the sport. But what he just said there is that in comparison to others, he didn't play in as many tournaments. That's not the thing. Obviously, how many times Tiger Woods won? Just those amount of tournaments he done alone constitute. He's golfed a fuck ton, right? So he meets the minimum threshold, obviously. He's trying to convolute the whole situation by now he's deviating to comparisons between amount played by other people, which that's not it. He's obviously met a minimum threshold, dude. Obviously, he's met a minimum threshold.
So, I'm here to say there is no debate. You can all stop debating. We all know what the answer is.
No, it's not true. False.
And if you don't believe me, you know...
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. You know the word he's going to use.
Go ask Razor Fist.
Oh, Razor Fist.
Go ask him.
Razor
well, actually, you know what? Don't ask him because he's still in deep denial about what happened. But yeah, every now and then I make an appearance for one of these types of things, and I do a Mortal Kombat flawless victory, and then I go back to my lair, and I relax and eat potato chips, and bask in the glory of what I just did. So
the cringe levels are over 9,000, man. The cringe levels are over 9,000. I don't... But listen, here's the thing I have to say, okay, and this is why this is so self-defeating, is that if I had $1 for every time this man has said Razor Fist in the past 7 days, I'd be richer than Jeff Bezos. Because what does he point to? And this is what I mean by it's self-defeating. Like, look at this video, right? He's making the case. This video is an excuse to fillet himself and to make the case for himself being the best lefty debater, right? And what's the best case that he's come up with? The best case that Kyle has currently come up with of him being the GOAT of lefty debating is that he destroyed one guy named Razor Fist, who, and I'm not trying to diminish that destruction because yeah, he's a moron, that's true, but it's still, a destruction is a destruction, right? That's all that matters. That was a really good debate that he did, and then he puts in a 2-minute Fox News clip, which in and of itself is self-defeating. So this is all to say, just debate more, dude. But I also have to say that there's something going on in this man's brain. I don't know what it is, but there's just something going on here. I don't know what it is. It's like insane narcissism, delusion, lunacy, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty sure this man has didn't he say he has a minor in psychology? I mean, he's got narcissistic personality disorder, delusions of grandeur, and he has a bunch of fans who enable him, which is a dangerous combo, obviously. Now, you know, there's no, I don't know if I'd go as far to say there's a cult of Kulinski, if you will. There's a cult of Gabbard, there's a cult of Dor. But even if there was a cult of Kulinski, obviously it's not, a big deal because it's just a joke about, them talking about who the best lefty debater is. Once you start getting into the Dor and Gabbard stuff, it starts to get really bad. And calling AOC, a sellout, and Bernie a sellout, and whatever. But this is all to say, debate more if you want that title. Very simple stuff. And there's something wrong with this man. I don't know how else to tell you guys this, but there is something just beaming in this man's brain, and it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how else to put it to you guys, man. It's absolutely crazy. But let me know your thoughts down below. I have a feeling a lot of Kyle Kulinski fans are not going to be very happy with this.